friends, we're here in the studio today and I want to talk about planning your painting, visualizing your painting. I've had some of you reach out and say, like, how do you plan things and how do you get things organized? And I am a big organizer, that is for sure. So I've just put together a video for you today regarding my steps. Like, how do I do it? And you know, everybody has their own pathway. So I'm just sharing with you the direction that I go in the studio. So usually, typically, you know, we've all got like all these photos because I still do print photos occasionally and I take a lot of them to workshops and different things like that. So not everybody works off of a computer. I have a big screen in my studio. I'll give you a shot of that here in a few minutes that shows you my setup. But in regards to planning a painting, you know, how do we do that? What is it that we use? So I never use just one. Like, for instance, this is me working on a big cloud scene. Look at all of the reference I have there. All right, multiple references. You need multiple references in order to create a piece, not just one image. And again, I preach, you're not married to that image. So definitely get yourself a collection of reference to work from, whatever that might be. Then also here is, I was working on a commission piece. This is all of the reference material that I've laid out here for me to use. Plenty of it. You know, that's an important facet to make sure that you set yourself up for success in the very beginning part of the planning process. Planning, visualizing, being inspired. Small thumbnails, small studies before you go to a larger piece. So in this video today, I am touching on a few points of what I do in Photoshop. This is no way a Photoshop tutorial. I am not qualified to teach Photoshop. I can get by with just the little bit that I know in order to do some things for my photos in there. So I merge photos. My clouds that I paint get put in a landscape that for me is inspiring. I gotta get a drink. I very seldom take one painting from one image, meaning I take my clouds and I put them in settings of somewhere I would like to go, somewhere I want to be. I create a scene that I feel is inspiring, that will take the viewer somewhere, and I use my creative license. I may spice it up and dramatize it, just some different things. But in Photoshop, I merge these images. So I just did a quick screenshot of a few things that I do. Like I said, no way is this a tutorial in Photoshop. I am sure there are a lot of other formatted programs out there that for photographers that you could use. Maybe you even have one that came with your camera. So find out what works for you. You know, even years ago, before I had Photoshop, I'll be honest with you, I sometimes cut up photos. Seriously. Like, I cut a tree out once and stuck it in the landscape in a little different area where that tree was coming out over my scene. Like, really, I did that. Like, I cut the photo up, placed it in there because I wanted the visualization of it. To me, that is so important to visualize where you're going. This is a major part of the planning process. So I'm putting this video in there for you to watch. Like I said, you know, go do your homework, figure out how you want to do your merging of photos and do thumbnails and studies. And then read the rest of this blog as well, because in it is more information and ideas about the process of starting. Like, and get inspired. You know, that's the main thing. Make sure you're inspired by your photo and enjoy it, right? That's what all this is about. All right, my friend. Well, let's watch this video and let's start planning our next painting. In Photoshop, I start with a big picture. And then I move on to decide, well, how do I want to crop it? So I crop it, but I knew I wanted it square and more sky. So you can see where the black element is. I'm going to come in with sky. Then I had to get rid of some elements like the big tree on the left. So I used Photoshop and got rid of that. And I added a little blue for a distant mountain. So it made it look like a mountain behind there. Then knowing I couldn't find my original cloud picture, but then I brought in a cloud that I actually really loved and wanted to make this about, which then I pulled together this scene. So this is how I go about merging pictures, deciding what I want to do and how I want the light to be. So hopefully that gives you an indication of a way for planning out your scenes. You can do this in multiple ways. I take my clouds where I want them to be. I make up landscapes, I rearrange things. It's part of my creative process. So here is my setup in my studio. I'm fortunate enough that I do have a big Hughes easel here, but my palette is a custom made palette that sits on top of what is it's a sofa table, something like that. So I had this custom top made and it's glass here. And then I have some trays here, some little bins. That's my Gamsol and clean Gamsol. I have some brush cleaner here, and then some Gamsol that if I want to paint with some, I dip my brush in there. And that is kind of the gist of my palette. That's my little thing of clove oil that when I cover this up, I have that little open tin with clove oil, which helps my paints not dry. On my left, I have my Tabaret where all my brushes are. I've got, my camera filming equipment. Then I have all these little shelves in my studio that I can put paintings on that are drying. So as I'm working, then I have this little tall shelf here in which my laptop sits on. And then I have a TV behind. Now I'm not using Wi-Fi to mirror that. I use an HDMI cord to my TV because, times the internet goes down and I do not want to be stopped painting because the internet is down. So that's kind of my setup. Now at this point, I figured out everything that I want to paint and I am ready to go. I get my painting up there. I do have like filming equipment overhead too, so when I'm filming classes and different videos. So hopefully this gives you some ideas about setting up your studio. I have a track of overhead lights up there. They are nothing special. I have them pointing different directions around the room, lighting up like those little shelves over there where I have paintings sitting, just lighting up my Tabaret over here where all my brushes are, whatever, some on my palette. So that's my setup in here. The process now of to get painting after I've figured out what it is I'm going to paint.